It has been a short while, and that's my fault. I went on vacation, I think like a week and a half ago now, and I got sick right after I got back, and I was in no way, shape, or form to film any content. I tried to, but my voice just wasn't there. So we're here today making another video for you guys. We're gonna be talking about how it is so easy for me to maintain these tanks and how I practically do 0 hours of maintenance for these aquariums. I do just want to say a quick disclaimer because in almost all of my videos, I try to make it seem as easy as possible to set up and maintain these aquariums with the inhabitants that I have. But with that being said, I want to let it be known that it's not just a walk in the park either with, the saltwater hobby. Anyone can do it, and I really do mean that. However, you do have to have the drive to continue to learn, as well as maintain and continue to clean your fish tanks. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about how I do practically 0 hours of maintenance on these tanks. So let's go ahead and run through the maintenance that I do for these tanks first, because although I say I do 0 hours of maintenance, because that's how it really feels, there is a little bit of work that I do have to do for these tanks. But a lot of it's automated, a lot of it is just super routine and habitual. But it's really easy, so let's jump into it. The three biggest questions I get are about water changes, my dosing regimen, and how do I keep my sand bed so clean. And I think all three of those questions are great segues to lead me into the topics that I do want to talk about. So to start off, I do not do water changes routinely on my tanks, and that's why I don't put it as part of my weekly or even monthly regimen, because I don't have a set schedule on when I do them. I only do water changes when I see fit. If I think there's an excess of nutrients in the tank, then I'll do a water change, or if there's some mishap with the salinity and I need to equal it out, then I'll do a quick water change and just throw in some RO water to equal it out. But I do water changes when I see fit. Now, if I don't do water changes, then how are my tanks clean, or how do they stay clean? It doesn't mean I don't put my hands in the tank, so this is where that little bit of time comes in, where it's not completely 0 hours of maintenance, but it's more so maybe like 20. Now, once a week, I do go into the tanks and I will clean the glass. And that basically consists of an algae scraper and a pad scraper, if you will. And it takes literally maybe 5 minutes for the 20 gallon, and it takes maybe 10 minutes for the 38 gallon. When I go in there, I just scrub the glass, I'll get a toothbrush, I'll clean around the power heads, and then maybe I'll move around the sand a little bit just to get some movement in the sand bed. But other than that, that's pretty much all I do to make the tanks clean. The second question I get asked the most, there's gonna be kind of two parts to this. It's how do I keep my sand bed so clean? And this is going to segue me into talking about how I do little to no maintenance for these tanks. So there's kind of two parts to this. How I'm able to do this little maintenance and keep my sand bed so clean, I think, is because of the abundance and the maturity of the beneficial bacteria that are in my setups. Everything that came from the 20 gallon came from the 38 gallon, which was from a previous tank before. So the beneficial bacteria that's in the rock and the sand, that's especially in the 38 gallon, has been going or continuous for at least 2 or 3 years. So it's a pretty mature colony in terms of the bacteria, and I think that's why I have somewhat of stable setups. For the sand bed being clean, I think the biggest thing that makes a sand bed look dirty is either going to be some sort of algae that's growing on top of it, or you've got just like an abundance of food or fish poop that's just sitting there. But it's most likely going to be algae that's growing on your sand bed. I do still have a little bit of algae in my tank, so it's not completely perfect. But for anyone struggling with their sand bed being dirty, some recommendations I would have is try to research if there's an algae growing on your sand bed and how to combat that. And with that, I would check your nutrients as well in the tank, because you might have high nutrients, in turn causing you to have algae growing on the sand bed, which makes it look dirty. So we talked about the very minimal maintenance regimen for these tanks, along with how I keep my sand bed clean and the maturity of your beneficial bacteria being a positive in these setups. Let's go ahead and move to the last question, which I think is also very important, and that's going to be dosing for these tanks, which shouldn't take that much time, but again, it adds to that maintenance time for if you're doing it weekly or monthly. So let's talk about if and what I dose for these tanks. So I used to dose all 4 reef, which is a mixture of magnesium, calcium, and alkalinity, and it was supposed to be like the 3 main dosing components that you would put into your tank, and it was all in one mixture. I've read both bad and good things about it. I've seen more people use it, and I've read more bad things about it, so take that as you will. I do not dose it anymore just because I ran out of it, and I have not bought it since. I've been not dosing for about 4 months now, and I have noticed a slight decline in the growth of my corals. However, the color seems to be staying there, just the growth has slowed down a bit. So I do need to start focusing on my dosing regimen once we get that second iteration of the reef corner setup. But for now, we kind of just are on standby, letting things ride out until we move. But once we do move and set up some more tanks, I do want to start taking dosing a little bit more seriously. For now, since I don't do it, it's not part of my regimen, and I'm not going to add it to that weekly or monthly time of maintenance. Now, to wrap up the video, the last thing we're going to talk about, I actually haven't mentioned yet because it just wasn't one of those questions we were talking about. However, it is the single biggest factor of why I'm able to do little to no maintenance for these aquariums. And that is because my tanks are stocked with some of, if not the easiest corals and fish you can keep in the hobby. The inhabitants that we have inside of the tank are softies, and these are incredibly easy to keep corals. They're flowy and moving. They come in a bunch of different shapes, colors, and sizes. We've got mostly Sinularias and toadstools in there, so the fingery looking corals that you see, those are going to be the Sinularias, and there's different variations of those. We've got the green Sinularia and the Kenya tree, which I believe are different ones. We've got toadstools in there, which look like the baseball mitts. They come in different colors because the base can be one color and the polyps can be another color, so those are really interesting corals. And the fish are incredibly easy to keep. Clownfish are, one of those fish that if you're in or out of the hobby, you think of when you think of, a saltwater tank. And they're just great fish to add if you're just now starting your tank, or if you want to add something in for a little bit of color. I feel like it's rare to get oranges in the saltwater hobby, and they just add a good amount of nutrients to your tank if you're looking for that as well. So clownfish are awesome, very robust. And these softies are also robust. They take a wide range of water parameters, and they can take, parameter swings without hurting too much. With that being said, you want to keep everything as consistent as possible, but having softies in there, it's a great beginner coral. They're not too expensive as well, and they grow quick. So I think it's a great beginner coral, and it's great for someone looking to do, again, little to no maintenance for their tanks, just like I am. Now in the tank we have over here, we've got a couple of mangrove plants, which are, yes, a plant, but they live in brackish or saltwater environments. And I wouldn't recommend these to beginners just because I haven't had a lot of experience with them myself. These are my first pods I've gotten, and I've had them for about 6 months. And like I said, I've been in the hobby for about a decade, so I think I just kind of got lucky my first go around, but they have seemed easy to keep so far. So if you are, new or not, I would recommend trying them. They're not too expensive, but I also wouldn't say they're a beginner type of saltwater thing, so don't, take my word for that. But they have been pretty easy so far. I also have soft corals in this tank. Every coral that you see in here is a frag of a larger colony in the 38 gallons. So these big colonies in here, we fragged them up and we put some little bits into this tank here. So that's what you're seeing. Very easy to propagate these corals as well and stock up another tank like we have here. So just another benefit there, but very, very easy to keep corals. And like I said, I think that's the biggest factor of why I'm able to do that little to no maintenance, is because I've got incredibly robust, hardy, and easy to keep inhabitants in these tanks. So the coral and the fish, really easy. They don't take much feeding either, not a lot of lighting or equipment, so super, super easy. And that's why I'm able to just kind of sit back and enjoy it for what it is. My hand's not always in the tank. I'm not always trying to fix something. So very enjoyable part of the hobby, keeping these easy to keep corals and fish. As stated before with the disclaimer, you still do have to do your research and gain that knowledge in the saltwater hobby. So it's not, a walk in the park, but it's very easy the way we have it set up here. And that's what I try to show and promote through my videos. If you guys have any questions about the tanks, about the corals, about the husbandry, then please leave it in the comments down below. You can also send me a direct message to my Instagram. The link is in the description below as well, along with my other social media platforms. We still have the 30 gallons sitting here ready to be set up. I walk past this thing every single day, and every single day I want to set it up, but I'm learning patience being able to just let this thing sit and allow myself to kind of formulate ideas of what I even want to put into this aquarium along with the other tanks that I have. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and got something out of it, but with all of that being said, I will be sure to catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.